I've been told I'm always wrong, so take these predictions with a grain of salt. Ladies and gentlemen, AEW will deliver a pay-per-view this Sunday that promises to be a huge, massive event. Double or Nothing 2022. The show is finally back in Las Vegas, Nevada, where it all started 3 years ago in 2019, after spending the past 2 years in Daly's place in Jacksonville, Florida due to the pandemic. The T-Mobile Arena has been sold out for weeks now, and AEW has reported its first ever $1 million gates with this show. In other words, this show is already a massive success, and as we head into it, the card is being called maybe the most unpredictable in AEW's history, and I'm about to do something I usually don't do, which is predict. And let's see how much I get wrong. We're starting off this prediction video with the only match on the buy-in as of the recording of this video, Hook and Danhausen versus Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling. This one is pretty obvious in my opinion. The story between Hook and Danhausen and to them finally teaming up has been actually built really well. This is why I'm not a wrestling booker, because it would have never crossed my mind in a million years to team up Hook and Danhausen. But it's worked really well so far, and as a skeptic of this whole storyline at first, I've been proven wrong and I'll take the L. Anyway, yeah, this should be an easy win for Danhausen and Hook over Tony Nese and Smart Mark Sterling. The question is, where does Hookhausen go after this? Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Now on to the main pay-per-view card. Jade Cargill versus Anarchy for the TBS Championship. This might be the only other really predictable match on the card. Jade Cargill is on a monster run right now. She actually has been booked way better than the actual AEW Women's World Champion. Anarchy, while still pretty good for her age and level of experience, she still has a long way to go, and I just don't see her at all being the one to dethrone Jade Cargill. I actually don't know who will be the one to dethrone Jade at this point. She's been booked really strong, and I think at this point it would have to be an outsider from the company, or I see Chris Statlander as another popular option always being brought up. But as for this match, easy win for Jade, and it might actually be the shortest match on the actual show. Next up, we have the House of Black versus Death Triangle in a trios match. This one's for the goth kids. This is essentially the match that's been building up for the past few months. If you recall, on the buy-in for Revolution, AEW's last pay-per-view, we kind of had the same match, except that Rey Fenix was injured and Eric Redbeard stepped in for him. This is where the unpredictability is starting to kick in. I feel like both of these groups can get the win. I feel like both groups need the win, which is crazy, but because the House of Black have been dominating for so long, I do think this is a win for Death Triangle. With Rey Fenix, one of my favorite wrestlers in all of AEW, finally back, I just think it makes sense for him to help his team get the win that they couldn't get without him at the last pay-per-view. So yeah, I'm going with the Death Triangle win here, and I might be biased because I'm Mexican, but that's okay. But anyway, this should be a really good match, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually the opener, because it would be a really hot opener that would get the crowd super pumped up to start the show. And up next is a fun one. The Young Bucks versus the Hardys. We all knew that when Jeff Hardy came to AEW, this match was eventually going to happen again. The Young Bucks and the Hardys had a fantastic ladder match for Ring of Honor the night before the Hardys actually returned to WWE at WrestleMania 33. But a lot has happened since then, and I'd be a fool to not bring up the fact that the Hardys have slowed down a lot compared to back then. Realistically, this should be an easy, predictable win for the Young Bucks, but what's throwing me off is that there's going to be a live Rampage right outside the Young Bucks' hometown in Ontario, California, the Friday immediately after Double or Nothing. So I can see the Hardys winning here at Double or Nothing, then the Young Bucks get their win back later that Friday for a huge hometown pop. Maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe I'm thinking too far ahead. This should be an easy Young Bucks win. And you know what, while the Hardys are legends, this is the Young Bucks era. So I'm going with the Young Bucks to win here. Up next is a big one. The Anarchy in the Arena match between the Jericho Appreciation Society and the Blackpool Combat Club, joined by Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. Jericho has once again reinvented himself with his Appreciation Society being basically a parody of a WWE character in AEW. Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz have recently once again joined forces to take on this Appreciation Society, but they're now joined by the group that loves violence, the Blackpool Combat Club. Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson have been absolutely killing it since joining forces at Revolution, along with William Regal and Wheeler Yuta, who's currently in Japan for the Battle of Super Juniors tournament. This should be a crazy match that should be all over the place and feature a lot of top guys for AEW. Now with that being said, I think this should be an easy win for the Jericho Appreciation Society. And before you go into the comments and curse me out, I think we all kind of know that this is building to the next Blood and Guts match. And if that is the case, then the Jericho Appreciation Society should get the win at Double or Nothing. And of course, the Masters of Violence, the Blackpool Combat Club, along with Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz should get the win at Blood and Guts. So I am predicting a Jericho Appreciation Society win. Up next is a match that has been in the making for quite literally years. MJF versus Wardlow. This is most likely the match with the best build heading into this show. MJF has put Wardlow through all these trials and tribulations in order to earn his match against MJF at this pay-per-view, and Wardlow did it all with ease, despite MJF trying to weasel his way and pull the rug from beneath Wardlow at every turn. If the payoff for this story is right, it might just be Tony Khan's best booking accomplishment. He has done so well to make Wardlow feel and look like a star, and the crowd is seriously buying into him, and I think Wardlow really needs the win here. The pop would be deafening, and just imagine the reaction to Wardlow finally getting his hands on MJF and hitting him with the Powerbomb Symphony. As I just said, as long as the payoff is good, this could very well be a feather in the cap of Tony Khan when it comes to his booking accomplishments. In the case of MJF, I think he can easily afford another big loss here, and it could further add to his storyline about being disgruntled and wanting to leave AEW. Whether that's true or not, we don't know, and I'll talk about that in a future video. But at this point, Wardlow is lightning in a bottle, and Tony Khan would be a fool to not capitalize on him. So I am predicting Wardlow beating MJF to a monster ovation from the audience. Up next is the Women's Owen Hart Cup Tournament Final between Britt Baker and either Ruby Soho or Chris Statlander. So obviously, it's pretty hard to predict a match where we don't know for sure who the two competitors are going to be. As of this recording, the match between Chris Statlander and Ruby Soho has not yet taken place. But also, you'd be a fool to bet against Britt Baker because she is Tony Khan's favorite in the entire women's division. And here's the thing, whoever does win between Ruby Soho or Chris Statlander, both of them faced Britt Baker when she was women's champion, and Britt beat them both. But there is the argument that whoever it is, they could be getting their win back against Britt Baker here and having a feel-good moment for a face winning the first ever finals for the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Britt Baker actually won at the last pay-per-view and dropped the title to Thunder Rosa 2 weeks later, so her pay-per-view record is still pretty good. So I'm going to be bold with my prediction and say that Britt Baker can afford a loss here, and whoever wins between Ruby Soho or Chris Statlander will defeat Britt to become the first ever winner of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. Up next is the men's Owen Hart Cup tournament final between Adam Cole and Samoa Joe. This should be a wild match. This has show stealer written all over it, and frankly, I don't know who's gonna win this. Samoa Joe is still undefeated in AEW, but Adam Cole is Tony Khan's golden child, even going as far as calling him his franchise player. This is the first ever match between Adam Cole and Samoa Joe, which is crazy because just last year both of them were in WWE, and these two were actually having a program on NXT which was obviously building to an eventual match, but then Adam Cole jumped ship to AEW, and then Samoa Joe got injured and then released by WWE. But finally they see themselves standing across the ring from each other. So who's going to win? Well, just like I said earlier about the women's tournament, I think you have to have a feel-good moment with the babyface winning the tournament, and I think Samoa Joe is going to defeat Adam Cole to do that. And don't get me wrong, a heel winning the tournament wouldn't be like the worst thing ever either. I could easily see Adam Cole winning this too, but I'm predicting Samoa Joe to win here because he's still very fresh in AEW. He's still undefeated. Next is the three-way tag for the tag team titles between Jurassic Express, Team Taz, and Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. This should be all kinds of fun. All 6 men in this match are very capable of having a fun match, and I feel like the crowd are going to be crazy into this if this goes on earlier in the show. Now, I like all 3 teams in this match, but I'm going to have to predict a Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs Team Taz win to become tag team champions. I feel like the overall story of Christian finally turning on Jungle Boy is about to enter its zenith, and therefore Jurassic Express need to drop the titles. And at this point, it's just a matter of preference of who you'd rather pick between Team Taz and Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee. And honestly, I just want to see my boys from Team Taz winning some gold, and Ricky Starks with 2 belts would be so good on TV. So yes, I'm predicting Team Taz to get the win. Next is the penultimate match on this card, Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb for the AEW Women's World title. Let me just say that when Thunder Rosa became AEW Women's World Champion, I had high hopes, but holy crap, she has been booked horribly. As I mentioned when the video started, Jade Cargill feels more like the main women's champion AEW compared to Thunder Rosa just based on TV screen time alone. The match itself should at the very least be good. These are 2 of the best women workers in all of AEW, and if given enough time and if the crowd is given a reason to care, which lately we haven't been given a reason to care, then this could be really great. But you know what, because the storyline hasn't been really good at all, then I really don't see people being too invested in this. As far as a prediction goes, I'm predicting that Thunder Rosa defeats Serena Deeb to retain her AEW Women's World title, but please, Tony Khan, if you're listening, or anyone at AEW is listening, please book Thunder Rosa better. Last but definitely not least is the big one, the main event, the draw of the show, the world title match between Hangman Adam Page and CM Punk. I literally made a whole video about how this main event is the most unpredictable main event in AEW history. Both of these wrestlers have sets of very loyal fans, which has divided the AEW fanbase unlike anything I've seen before. Hangman fans are convinced that it would be the end of the world and that his arc would be meaningless if he drops the title to CM Punk. CM Punk fans feel his return would be wasted if he doesn't win the AEW World title while he is white nuclear hot as he is right now. This match has been debated to no end since it was made official. So who's gonna win? Who do I think is gonna win? Well, after the promo battle of this past Wednesday on the Go Home episode of Dynamite for Double or Nothing, I'm convinced that this match is going one way and one way only. CM Punk is in the head of Hangman Adam Page. Punk tells Hangman not to take it personal, that it's just business. Hangman says that he's defending not just the title, but he's defending AEW from CM Punk. So what am I predicting here? Well, I think Hangman's insecurities will once more get the better of him, and CM Punk will defeat him to become the new AEW World Champion, and thus we'll get the 3rd Summer of Punk, which will lead to the Forbidden Door in the hometown of Punk in Chicago, Illinois. And it just makes more sense business-wise when it comes to the summer to put the belt on CM Punk. Now, I've been massively wrong before. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So this could all be wrong. All my predictions could be wrong. So just take that with a grain of salt, as I said, and I'll take the L when all my predictions end up being wrong. But I think what we can all agree on is that Double or Nothing 2022 will be a hell of a show with some unpredictable matches.